Welcome back to the channel. I'm Austin, and Warzone has updated the game to a point where people don't know which SMGs are the best anymore. So I'm pitting the PPSH versus the Cold War MP5. I'm here to give you an updated comparison after all the PPSH buffs, and give you all the tools to decide which one you prefer to use. At the end of it, I'll give you a loadout for each weapon, and tell you which one I prefer and why. I'm going to start by going over the advantages to using the PPSH in Season 4. Way back in Season 3, which was yesterday, the developers made it clear they wanted people to use this weapon by giving it a few different buffs. They turned this SMG into a hybrid of the MAC-10 and Modern Warfare MP5. You're going to get what I mean by that when I start going over these stats. So, first off, the PPSH has the second best handling stats of any sub within Warzone, behind only the MAC-10. If you want movement speed, strafe speed, or ADS, the PPSH is top tier. The handling stats are 99% of what the max is. Then if we're going to go over to TTK and hipfire, it's nearly identical to the Modern Warfare MP5. This is the reason I'm putting this weapon up against the Cold War MP5 and not the Modern Warfare one, because it would be a landslide victory for the CW MP5. If these stats weren't good enough for the PPSH already, it has the second fastest fire rate among meta SMGs. I'm not including the Fennec in this because, well, it's not exactly the best sub, in large part due to its mag size, so it's technically third fastest fire rate, but it's second for meta weapons, only behind the aforementioned MAC-10. And because this weapon has such a fast fire rate, it makes it incredibly forgiving if you miss shots. Low skilled or high skilled players should both love this weapon. On top of this, it has the third best range for its max damage of all subs, at 17 meters, where the Cold War MP5 is only 9 meters, which you're going to understand why that is when we get to the next section. Another plus for the PPSH is its mag size with options of 55 and 71, meaning it's only behind the Bullfrog with ammo capacity. Now let's talk about the Cold War MP5's advantages. You've been hearing all these good things about the PPSH and are probably thinking it has to be the sub to use. Well, I'm going to tell you one thing where the MP5 outshines every other SMG in Warzone. Not just the PPSH, but all of them. And that is in TTK. In its max damage range, this weapon is absolutely broken. It kills in 492 milliseconds with only body shots. So if you get headshots, you can even amplify that more. And if you're down a plate or two, this can really help compensate in the fight and keep you alive. And that's probably why this fun fact is true, that the Cold War MP5 has the highest KD of any sub used within Warzone. All this means is if you take the entire player base when they use every sub, how many kills to deaths do they get? And the Cold War MP5 is at the top of that list, so that should probably tell you something about how good it is, and it needs to be considered within the top tier of SMGs, even though for some reason it isn't that highly used. So let's go over why this stat is true other than the TTK. It also shines within damage output per mag, and all this means is if you hit every bullet within the SMG, how much damage do you get within the mag? So this is sort of a helpful stat when it comes to trios and quads, because if you don't have that much damage output, you're probably not going to be able to take out a lot of people with one mag. So trios and quads is more valuable if your weapon can have more damage in the mag, and for this Cold War MP5, it's the third highest within Warzone. So that makes it extremely valuable to use in trios and quads. And if we talk about handling stats and fire rate, the PPSH is obviously better than the MP5 because we've already gone over, it's already top 2 in all of those. The MP5 still isn't a slouch. It's mid-tier in all of them, making it sort of average in the subcategory for that aspect, but that just means it has no glaring weaknesses. If handling and fire rate is where it's weaker than the PPSH and it's still decent, that just means it only has strong suits in TTK and damage per mag. They're powerful strengths at that. So this is a real competition. Time for the verdict. I think these are the top 2 SMGs within Warzone, but the one that will be the best for the average player base that I'm going to recommend will be the PPSH. I say this because it's above average in every single category, and it's extremely forgiving to use because of its high fire rate. Low skill players will still be able to use this weapon and get kills, while high skill players can absolutely tear through lobbies with it by using its movement advantages. However, the Cold War MP5 can be maximized by players who have good aim. I gravitate towards using this weapon for its TTK and quads, and I like to use the PPSH in duos and trios. But let's get into the class setups. So the first attachment we're going to be putting on the PPSH is going to be the Grew Suppressor. So you have really two options in the muzzle category, and it's going to be either the Sound Suppressor or Grew. The sound is going to give you the aim down sight speed and bullet velocity and sprint to fire time, which is very useful, but I think adding to the range with the vertical recoil control is really going to help you out here, because you're going to see in a future attachment we're going to be foregoing recoil control and we're going to be trying to go for hip fire. So Grew Suppressor on this build is what you're going to have to do, and then we go over to the barrel, which is going to be the 15.7 Task Force, which is going to help that strafe speed that is already top tier. It's going to give you more bullet velocity and more effective damage range, so we're really trying to push that 17 meters out, because that's one of its strong suits, is how far it still has its top damage. So we're trying to extend that, as well as getting the bullet velocity and strafe speed up. Now is where we go for the hip fire. So this is what's going to help you out in the super close quarters combat, and this is going to be the Grew 5 MW laser sight. While the laser is visible to enemies, I think it's completely worth it, because if you're within 10 meters, you don't even have to use your ADS, which you have really good ADS times, but you can save that for using from 10 to 20 meters on this. Inside 10 meters, you're just going to be hip firing and it drops people. So for the underbarrel, rather than going for the Spetsnaz grip, we're going to be using the Bruiser grip, because what does that do? Gives us even more movement speed and hip fire, two of its strong suits. I mean, honestly, this whole gun you can build in a million different ways. So if you're really struggling with the recoil, you can go for the Spetsnaz grip instead. And if you do that and you're building it for like an ADS type weapon, I'd probably get rid of the Grew 5MW laser, and I would just throw on probably the Raider stock here, so you get the ADS firing move speed while aim walking movement speed. So if you struggle with recoil, switch the underbarrel out from a Bruiser to a Spetsnaz and get rid of the 5MW laser for a Raider stock. And then we obviously are going to want to increase our magazine size, which is going to be the 55 round drum, which it still has an amazing reload time with this drum mag, so you don't need any reason to use the fast mag, because that would still be less bullets. And then if you're going to use this in quads, like if you really want to, you can't use the 55 round drum. You're going to have to use the 71 round drum, and this will actually put it to be a little bit better than the MP5 for damage output per mag. This is going to be hurting your reload quickness quite a bit and your aim down sight speed, which is its strong suit. So I try to stay away from using this in quads, but if you're going to and you can forego a bit of the ADS, then I would certainly use the 71 round drum. But anything less than quads, trios, duos, solo, use the 55 round drum, plenty of ammo, gonna work out great. Alright, moving over to the MP5 class setup, we're going to be starting off with the muzzle, and we're going to be using the Agency Suppressor because we want to increase that max damage range from 9 meters up to about 11. So the Agency Suppressor is going to allow us to get the vertical recoil control, bullet velocity, and effective damage range, which is so important. And then from there, what we're going to be doing is throwing on a Raider stock, and that's basically going to help us with our strafe speed as well as our sprint to fire time, because that's going to be really key. We're trying to make the movement stats on this MP5 go from average to above average so it can compete with things like the PPSH and the MAC-10. It won't quite be able to get there, but if it's close enough with its superior TTK, you're still going to be absolutely obliterating those users up close. Then we're going to be throwing on the Airborne Elastic Wrap as the rear grip, because that's your ADS, your flinch resistance, and aiming stability. And of course, we always need to increase that mag size, so we're going to go with the Stagnag 50 round drum, pretty straightforward. And then for the underbarrel, because we don't need hip fire, because this is not a hip fire weapon at all, we're not going to be using the Bruiser grip. We're going to use the Patrol grip for sprinting move speed, allowing you to get around the map faster. But let's just say you're struggling with recoil on this weapon, and because aim is so key, if you're not hitting your shots, this isn't going to be working out. So what I would do there is I would take off the Airborne Elastic Wrap, switch the Patrol grip up to the Field Agent grip, and then I would probably extend that range a bit more because you're lowering the recoil. Now, 9.5 Task Force barrel would sort of hurt your vertical and horizontal recoil, but you have the Field Agent 4 grip basically counteracting that. But if this isn't good enough for you, I mean, you're going to have to switch up to the 9.1 rifled, which still gets your damage range up right there, and basically you're going to be able to aim a lot easier, and you're going to get that max damage range from 9 meters probably up to 12 or 13 meters about. So this is going to be pretty much the build for the lowest recoil along with the best range on the weapon. But if you could manage the recoil on this build with the 9.5 task force, I'd do that. But still, my recommended class setup would be trying to get the movement speed to be on par with the upper echelon of weapons there. So I would be going with the patrol grip and airborne elastic, with the Raider stock, agency suppressor, and Stagnite 50-round drum. If you run either of these SMGs in Warzone, you're going to be having a good time. And if you guys want to see more weapon comparisons, check out the playlist in the upper right hand corner of your screen right now. Make sure to like and subscribe if you've watched this far, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.